Hello, everyone. This is High Priestess Tana, and thank you for tuning into Tana Temple Healing Words. I hope that everyone is doing well. I know it's really early in the morning, but I hope that everyone had a great Memorial Day, and I hope that everyone enjoyed themselves. And I do want to salute everyone who dedicated and served for this country. I'm here in the United States, just in case some people don't know. I live in Michigan, to be exact, but I am here because I want to do a spiritual breakdown or like a analysis of Sade's Diamond Life album. Okay, so this particular album is the debut album of Sade, and it was released in 1984. And it was a very groundbreaking album because it sold like 10 million copies or over 10 million copies worldwide, from my understanding. And that was pretty cool, especially for a group that mixed like different genres. Like, specifically, it was very heavy with jazz music mixed with a little bit of pop, a little bit of R&B. Um, and I would say, but mostly it was smooth R&B and jazz. It was the quiet storm type of music that, if you know, you know. If you were born and raised in the 80s or early 90s, or in before that, prior to that, you know about Sade, right? Not only is the lead singer or lead vocalist name is Sade, the band was also named or is named Sade, right? So the singer Sade, just to give a little background, her real name is Helen Folosade Adu, and she was born in 1959. I want to say like January 16th, 1959, if I recall correctly. And she's of a mixed race background. She's part Nigerian and British, specifically Yoruba and British descent. And she's a pretty cool artist. And I just wanted to break down the album from a spiritual standpoint, and it's a lot. And I don't want to just do a music review. I just want to reflect on how sometimes we don't realize how significant these albums were or are in our everyday life, right? So basically, this specific album really, I would say, captured my attention to really do a spiritual breakdown slash analysis on, because it covers a lot of topics about love, about uh, the economy at the time in the 80s, and really we're going through the same thing now. People are trying to figure out how they're going to make a living. People are going through love and relationship issues that are like very um how would I say, that are very emotional and emotionally draining and confusing. And it's also very it hits you on a soul level. It's very deep and complex, and it's not something that you can navigate through very easy. The waters can be troubled, or the tides can be a little rough, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna tell you this. It also talks about karmic lessons as well when it comes to love, and it can also talk about illusion, heartbreak. We already know that Sade is no stranger to heartbreak and being like depressed in a way in her songs, as well as being deeply in love in her songs and transcending in love in her songs. So this woman has a background of being very spiritually inclined when it comes to the themes, or in her songs, but it's like a spiritual evolution that is being showcased each album, because you have Diamond Life, you have Promise, we have Love Deluxe. We have so many. We have albums from Sade, so many songs that we can relate to, rather, as well, that are made by Sade, right? So, what I want to start off by saying is that I want to start off by talking about the title Diamond Life, right? Diamond Life. It's funny because if you look at the album cover and if you listen to the songs, it's almost like contrasting each other because on the front part of the album cover, I can't remember what the back part looked like. I'm not trying to look at all that right now, but she doesn't look over the top or super fancy or like she's rich, super rich, right? But the term diamond life can represent luxury, elegance, transcendence when it comes to physical wealth, status, beauty, and sometimes that can come with a karmic currency, right? Because if you're so stuck on these particular things about beauty, status, wealth, and being emotionally detached from your well being, that can create a karmic currency, right? So, although all money is not evil, and I'm not saying that Sade, I'm sorry, it's Sade. I don't know why I said Sade. um, I'm not saying that Sade is materialistic or anything like that, um, or trying to project being someone that she wasn't or anything like that during this time of her life. And all luxury isn't fake either because some people live a lie. You know, we have people now who go online and they flex like they got all this money and these beautiful homes and cars and trucks and all these so-called businesses, but you never really, like, when you're in person, you're like, where's all this stuff? Like, you're trying to understand, like, okay, you claim you got this, you claim you got that, you're making moves out here, but then when you see them, you may hear them always talk about, hey, I'm struggling or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, this the thing. Some people want refinement in their lives, but it could come at a soul cost too. Because there are themes in this album that represent that. Like, I'm not saying like a person selling their soul, but in a way, people don't understand. You kind of can sell your soul when it comes to love too, because you could be sacrificing so much of yourself to a person, and you may not even realize the effect that it has on you, not only mentally but spiritually and emotionally. So it's funny because if you listen to some of the songs on this album, even though it's titled Diamond Life, it's far from shiny things and diamond rings and furs and champagne and 5 star, Michelin star, whatever restaurants. This isn't about that in mansions and penthouses and stuff like that. If you think about it, here's the thing. If you look at some of the old videos that were made back in the day that came like that were songs from this album, you'll be like, wow, it seemed like they're living the good life. They're all jazzy and, you know, playing their instruments and singing at these jazz clubs, or they look like they're sophisticated. And some people are sophisticated, but they're also poor too. And they may wear their finest clothes and everything like that when they step out and go to the club or the pub, or however you want to put it, the bar and grill, the beautiful restaurants. And you think that they have it like that, and they really don't. It's all a facade. So it's like a duality of, in a way, you have diamonds. They're very beautiful, right? But also in the light, they look fractured. And when I think about Sade and her image, and especially like even throughout her career, it's like you have this beautiful woman, but she's also broken by love because love had defeated her in some cases. She would tell you. But I'm also thinking about, you know what? I'm just keep it real with y'all. This album can represent, in a sense, a person selling their soul, in a sense, because they want to have that life so bad. I'm not saying that's what Sade did. I'm saying that it can represent, the things that people do to get on top or to stay on top because of the themes of the songs, right? So here's the thing, as a feminine archetype, like, as I'm looking at, when I look at Sade, and I can say it again, when I look at Sade, and I'm thinking about the diamond life aesthetic that she had back then, when she would, like, she's known for wearing like her red lipstick and her ponytail, and she has light colored skin, like she's very light complected. um she has an exotic look. She can represent elegance or eloquence, in a sense. And basically it shows that, in a sense, like, even I'm thinking about her band, like how they made it, right? They had to travel around, and they had to find their niche, I guess you would say, niche or niche or whatever, to see what fit them and how people gravitated to them, from my understanding. And they're known for being smooth like butter, extra smooth. So when you look at Sade, you think of luxury, you think of beauty, you think of a woman who's rich, who's sophisticated, who's well spoken. She has a very unique voice. It's like a sort of, it's like deep, but it's ethereal. It's airy. She has a very airy voice, and it comes off as being sexy. Um, in this album, it can also touch base on. I'm just thinking of the title. Could represent that sometimes, although people do whatever it takes to live this lifestyle, and like I said, people sacrifice themselves for love, they sacrifice themselves for material things too. And you can be going around wearing a karmic mask. You know what I'm saying? And just because you're living a diamond life or a beautiful life doesn't mean that it's really beautiful. Because, like I said, a diamond, you can see how cracked it is in the inside when the light is being reflected on it, okay? And a diamond does not necessarily represent abundance, just because even if she had the diamonds or even the damn pearls too, whatever the case might be, that doesn't mean that a person's life is just so beautiful and grand, even if they are wearing these things or they have these material things. Some people really do have these things, and they're not fake flexing or nothing, but at the same time they're spiritually broken. They're broken in the inside, you know what I'm saying? So um I'm gonna start decoding. First of all, we already know that diamonds are created under what pressure? She could also been trying to say, she could have also been saying that she became a diamond under pressure because of the relationship she went through, because of the pain that she went through. It could have came from her childhood. It could have came from pressure around fitting a certain aesthetic, because you got to think she is a mixed race woman, although she's very beautiful. People, I, from what I was understanding, bullied her a little bit when she was younger because of her being mixed race. And that could be pressure alone. And on top of that, her beauty could have been her armor too. Okay, because when you're beautiful on the outside, sometimes people don't realize that it could be some ugliness in the inside. And not saying that she acts ugly, but it could be some ugly things or some terrible things that you're fighting, or demons that you're fighting, that people don't understand. They just think, oh, that person is beautiful, but they don't realize that it took me X amount of times or X amount of years to learn how to be this cool under pressure, or live as this refined female on the outside. That's what you perceive me as, but really I could be broken, I could be fragmented and refracted in the inside. I'm also getting that this could have been talking about how she worked so hard to be accepted in a specific class. Like, when it comes to being high class, because back in the 80s people were really big on that, being high class, having a lot of money, going to restaurants and spending a lot of money on, I don't know, an entree or whatever, a bottle of wine or Dom Perignon and stuff, like, you know, the stuff they would talk about back then. And that was a thing. People were infatuated with the good life back then too. And some women were prostitute, and men were prostituting themselves, people in general prostituting to make it to the top, or pretending like they had more than what they had to be accepted by society. Also, some people could be spiritually numb, and that could be taken as a form of sophistication. What do I mean by that? Some people don't want to acknowledge internally that they're not spiritually sound or spiritually awakened, and they live through these material things to come off like they're just so strong, so successful, so beautiful or handsome, so in tune with everything around them, and just so fabulous and that, or glamorous, and that's not even what's going on. Okay, so when I listened to when I listened to this album, I picked up on a lot of different things. It seemed like, to me, Sade went through a lot with her partners by trying to please them, by trying to be what she thought they wanted her to be, and not who she really wanted to be in a relationship. So, a lot of the songs, it seemed like it's like the role of a divine feminine distorting herself to make herself feel accepted by her partner, and be this like form of perfection. Like, she was dealing with people who were emotionally unavailable, emotionally detached. She would praise them like, your love is king, like, She really praised her partners. But most of the time, you never heard her sing. Well, you rarely would hear her sing about a man, how a man would view her, okay, and acknowledge her in the connection. And I noticed that. She could have came off as a seductress, in a sense. And that was a form of armor and protection for her, too. She could have used her beauty as currency, as a way to get things from her partners materialistically or romantically. Or she's singing about people who did this, right? But this is mostly about her life and other people, other stories that I'm quite sure she put things together, and she created a story. So I noticed that she has a lot of themes about desirability and survival in a relationship. I don't really know about how her parents interacted with each other while they were together. Can't remember if they were married or not. They may have been estranged or something, in a strange marriage or relationship or something. But I feel like she could have been carrying some of that trauma from the relationship from her parents in her as well, and it was reflected in some of her albums. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Karma. When you're living a diamond life and you're living high on a hog and you're projecting like you're one way, or you're living, well, showing outwardly that you're one way, but internally you're a totally different way. And you can create a sense of high end karma by pretty much you trading your authenticity for elevation in society. And that's like, I compare that to like selling your soul. And you create this energetic debt because you're so attached to status that you're sacrificing your livelihood, your happiness, your joy, and your peace. And you're dealing with things under bubbling or boiling underneath the surface just to live this lifestyle. And everything ain't all good like it seems from the outside looking in. You could be dealing with a horrible relationship. You could be dealing with self esteem issues. You could be dealing with uncertainty. You could be dealing with um, self hatred, complexities. You could be dealing with racism, sexism, prejudice, all that stuff. This album kind of take me back to, in a way, when I think of like the theme of this album, one of the things that pop in my head is about the soft life culture. Like everything, this is what we see now plastered in front of our faces on Instagram and TikTok and all these other platforms, X and all that, right? Soft life culture. Oh my God, you have to live in luxury. You have to be successful. If you're operating on this frequency, you can't be successful, rather, if you're not operating on this frequency. Um, but also in this album, you hear the story of a lonely woman, a woman who deals with loneliness because if she is elevated in her life when it comes to her career or whatever, she could be going through hardships or whatever the case might be when it comes to maybe keeping a partner. They may be threatened by that because you do have luxury and beauty and fame and fortune. You could be getting used just because of that, because of your aesthetic and your external success to the world, what they see. Um, there's nothing wrong with being beautiful and abundant at the same damn time, but you have to stay aligned. You have to embody authenticity and not be something that you're not. You can have luxury without sacrificing your soul. You can be feminine, you can possess a feminine power without emotional suppression. You don't have to be cold or detached. And in some of these songs you can tell that, and maybe this is because she is a Capricorn. Sometimes it seems like she's fighting her feelings, and it's like it turns to depression. You can hear it in the songs, but I really believe that overall, I feel like some people, it's almost like when I'm thinking of the Ice Queen imagery in my head when I'm thinking of being emotionally detached. Sometimes love can hurt you so bad that it can make you feel ice cold. And sometimes I felt that energy in while listening to that album. But I got a few more things I want to talk about, and I'm gonna wrap this up in a minute. But this album was really about a spiritual evolution, slowly working his way from this album up until all the other albums. Like it was like a starting point, introducing us to the world of Sade, and basically she was navigating her soul in these songs, and it definitely touched base on understanding the difference between fake love and unconditional love, authenticity and being inauthentic, um, and also realizing that sometimes I believe she was living in a fantasy and she didn't want to, like, she may have not admitted it, but maybe she did actually. As I'm thinking, in some of these songs she was living in reality, I mean living in a fantasy, and other times she was snapped back into reality. But it was like a division, it was like a divide, like 50-50 in some cases. So when she's talking about your love is king, your love is king, crown me with your heart. Yeah, it's about surrendering to, honestly, when I think of a higher vibration or pure devotion and letting your ego aside and giving your heart to someone, I'm thinking, was she really talking about God though? In a sense, I feel like it was a dual meaning to this song. Yes, she was talking about being in love with this man that she was so happy and, cheerful about, because she said that he was making her dance in the inside. But what if she was also talking about God making her feel great after dealing with so much in her life? as well, and it was covered up in a sense with, oh, let me talk about this new love or this relationship I've been in. I was thinking about that. Then we have smooth operator. So, all right, smooth operator. Don't need to ask, he's a smooth operator. Yeah. So this guy or whomever she's dealing with at the time is he's driven by his ego, and he appears to be materialistic and possibly a womanizer. And it teaches a spiritual lesson about don't get lost in illusions and worldly possessions in the material world and desires that you feel like are like almost too good to be true, right? And you have to have a strong or divine connection within yourself. Now, next we have when am I going to make a living? The struggle. This talks about the struggle of living here on earth when it comes to like the economy, and it talks about survival. Like, how are you going to make it in life if you don't have enough money, enough courage, enough willpower? Because, from my understanding, they said that she was writing on the back of a cleaning ticket when she had no money. So, this was real life, okay? And the song embodies the struggle for survival. So, it reflects how the soul's friction clashes with the material plane or the earth plane. And one of the lines or one of the lyrics are, we are hungry but we won't give in. And that's a mantra for the spiritual endurance or the struggle that she's going through. Like her light, she feel like her light is being tested and her integrity is being challenged while going through this adversity. You know what I'm saying? So we also have Cherry Pie and Frankie's First Affair, which talks about karmic lessons of being spiritually attached to someone when it comes to someone who is not equally yoked to you or for you, rather. And it's talking about how people, we see it all the time, I talk about it all the time, how people become spiritually attached to folks that they should not be dealing with, who they should not be dealing with. And this is talking about a spiritual mirror in a sense, like two people are intertwined with each other, they're suffering, and it, forces them to seek peace within themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and this is talking about conditional love, not unconditional love. And I was talking about that a little bit earlier, the difference between conditional love and unconditional love. And these two songs, Cherry Pie and Frankie's First Affair, talks about conditional love, meaning that it wasn't a love that was completely genuine or coming from the heart naturally like that. They were attached to each other for the wrong reasons, for their own personal reasons, but they suffered in the process, right? And then we have Why Can't We Live Together? And this is talking about like unity and oneness. So, um, this is a cover of Timmy Thomas's 1972 anti-war theme. I'm sorry, anti-war anthem. And it said that it grounds the album in a message of collective unity. So this is again, like I was saying, it was talking about different themes such as conflict, fear, division, and it's really covering the concept of oneness and saying that all humans are interconnected to each other one way or another, regardless if we want to admit it or not, and that we should all live together in harmony. And it doesn't matter what race you are, what sex you are, what's your class, if you're upper class, lower class, middle class, it shouldn't matter. And there are different things going on at once as humans, as a collective. We all have some things going on with us that we all can relate to. And that's funny because the name of the album, I was about to say island, y'all. The name of the album is Diamond Life. But really, it ain't nothing shiny or pretty about some of the words of these songs. Is very much the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So, um, this was a pretty solid album overall, I would like to say. And it talks about real life experiences. It's the contrast, or it's like the polar opposite. The last song summed up really the whole album, low key. Because yes, a lot of people want that diamond life, but is it meant for everyone to have? Because it come with a price, and it could come with some heavy karma, and that could come in the form of your health, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. Because if people going around cheating, you could possibly get STIs, STDs. You could have a nervous breakdown or whatever, God forbid. Anything could go down. You know what I'm saying? You could be spiritually lost and unawakened and confused. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot going on here. So this was overall a pretty good album. And let's see. One more thing. Overall, I think that it was it had so many different things to offer, especially in the debut album, but they all were interconnected with each other. The Diamond Life isn't purely about luxury, it's about emotional and spiritual ways or adaptations required to survive proximity to power, in a sense. And people may have done things they didn't want to do. And from what I was picking up in his album, even Sade may have made some sacrifices she didn't want to make to get where she is. And rather that's being poor, because it was times where she didn't have much money, a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So, like with Smooth Operator, this is a purpose who's a manipulator or a damn narcissist, from what it sounds like. If you listen to the song, they have the charisma. They're very uh they engage in intimacy, and they seduce people, but they're emotionally detached. They move around without being rooted in any type of relationship. They just go from person to person. Their identity involves bouncing from bedroom to bedroom or however with different people, getting emotional fulfillment or using people for whatever material gain they can as well. Then we have a person who's a damn shapeshifter. That's what the hell is a smooth operator. They're a shapeshifter. They are emotionally scattered all over the place. They go from person to person. They're spiritually unanchored. They're seductive. They're emotionally closed off. Your love is king. She's submitting herself to her lover. She is also talking about romantic idealization. She's spiritually intoxicated and she's looking at this man like a sacred masculine because in her eyes she's coming into the picture as a sacred feminine energy who's seeking to transcend through an emotional union with this man. Then you got hang on to your love. I didn't talk about that one. I skipped that one. So she's trying to spiritually protect her love and guarding her emotional connection and preserving her softness or soft feminine traits while resisting being all cynical in a connection emotionally. She just want to be stable and not all over the place or upset or frustrated all the time. She was attempting to protect the connection and its authenticity while being surrounded by a bunch of status driven relationships because some people are only with each other because of, oh, this person has this type of job or this type of property or this business or they look good or they got a big penis or this person has a fat ass or stuff like that. We're going through that now. And that's where this diamond life imagery come in. Love can become fragile in environments built on image and ambition. And that creates that high-end karma I was talking about. Frankie's first affair. This is talk about the loss of innocence. I'm breaking things down a little bit more in depth. We're talking about seduction. We're talking about coming of age, erotic awakening, emotional consequences that happen when you're not really aware of how deep things can get emotionally, spiritually, and physically. When you open up your body to someone, it's a portal. It's like a energetic portal. You know what I'm saying? And you create what? Soul ties, karmic bonds. This is sexual initiation. And you leave an imprint on someone spiritually as well. This person isn't thinking about the emotional response or adult responsibilities that come with opening up yourself to someone in that way, in a sexual way, you know. And you have to have spiritual protection or soul protection while doing these things. You have to be aware of things. You have to stay prayed up at all times, okay? And I'm gonna be honest with you. When this album was out, when it first got released, HIV/AIDS was running rampant. And it really, honestly, the numbers shouldn't be as high as they are now, but they are. People don't protect themselves. Okay? When am I going to make a living? Survival, anxiety, productivity identity, economic exhaustion, material pressure. You're poor, but you also want that good life and you want to work so hard, but it feel like you work so hard and you still have nothing to show. You have nothing to show for at all. All you got is hard labor, striving to survive, and you feel depleted in the process. And a diamond life requires energetic output. Like that's basically what I was saying. You that people will never see. You work so hard to live like a superstar, look like a movie star or a rock star or a damn rapper or whatever. But in truth, the truth of the matter is, you may never get to that status where you look like that. You want to attain that, but that's why people they reroute or they detour and go down another route, and it could cost them their lives because they start sacrificing themselves in ways that's not cool. And that's why we got the whole hustle culture. Everybody trying to work 2 3 jobs to live to be a certain type of way, have a certain type of image. Some people say I work so hard because I like nice stuff. But yeah, you work so hard because you like nice stuff, but you barely wear these nice stuff. This nice stuff because you're always working. And by the time you party, you're tired as hell. And then we have Sally. Feminine rebellion against imposed identity. Rejecting expectations, refusing domestication, feminine self-definition. This person don't want to be suffocated um from a, I guess, a feminine standpoint. She's rebelling against the, I guess, the female norm. She not about to sit up there and be the traditional, I guess, everyday female. In her eyes, what she would consider someone who, like, this person ain't trying to be no housewife or whatever, or tied down in a marriage. She may like multiple partners. I forgot how the song went, but this woman is like a shadow priestess, and she running away from the inherited karmic roles that I guess some of the women she saw around her experiencing. And we have this song called I Will Be Your Friend. And it's talk about companionship as a healing frequency, and it's talk about being emotionally sincere, soul companionship, or like a kindred spirit, or like a soulmate type of energy and grounded affection. This song is obviously the opposite. It's not about seduction or trying to be something, mold yourself into something else to be accepted or loved by somebody or whatever. This is about a return to being human, just naturally being human. Like, hey, I got your back, you know, because, I know how it feels to be out there struggling, trying to make it. I'll be there to support you. I see you're a good hearted person, whatever. And I'm going to be emotionally open. Yeah, it's a lot. So we have Why Can't We Live Together? This is talking about how the world is experiencing division, separation, being emotionally detached from one another, social disconnection. And that's when you tap into that diamond life theme again. The diamond life is not just an individual thing, it reflects, you know, society's spiritual imbalance, because look at this. I was just talking about, we have different races, we have different classes, we have different occupations, we have different neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods are disadvantaged, some neighborhoods are more upscale and lush, and you have, yeah, it's a lot going on. So we have some parts of the world that are third world countries that look like war zones. Some, yeah, it's real out here. And luxury culture often exists besides emotional disconnection and social suffering. So it shows the contradiction of how, yeah, you have people who live the diamond life, but also they don't realize that when you have people like that come around others who are less fortunate financially or materialistically, that causes a division, that causes feelings of rage, jealousy, insecurities, envy. And some people think, why can't I be rich? Why can't I have this or have that like this person, like person whatever, person A or person B that just walked in the room? Why do I have to struggle so much? Then we have cherry pie. Some people use pleasure as a distraction, and it could talk about escaping or escapism through indulgence, appetite, temporary satisfaction or sweetness, and seductive comfort. And you could be sedated by that sweetness of seduction. And then we already know that cherries can represent temptation, fleeting pleasure, emotional consumption. And then it's like pretty much like this is like a high. It's like having a high after being emotionally exhausted. Life just gets so tough, and you want to escape, and you may want some sex, you may want some sweetness from another person, to you may want some sweet kisses, or you may want to um feel embraced by someone's sweetness, there, even if it's just their personality. But you want to indulge, you want to be with someone who could just blow your socks off, okay. So overall, if you want to know what the diamond life really represents, it ain't luxury. It's about keeping your spiritual integrity intact under pressure. Because diamonds are built from pressure, they're made from pressure, right? So you could be beautiful, romantic, successful, sexy, loving, caring, gentle, but it also talks about there are other shadow aspects of that too, like of love, and it's not just sweet and seductive and floating in the air and pretty much like so in love and la la land. And you have to also be emotionally balanced, spiritually balanced, spiritually protected, and understand life in general and the things that come with it, and understand that everything isn't going to be beautiful and fancy, but life, you learn lessons every day, and it may not come in a shiny box or a beautiful, it may not be masked as a penthouse or a mansion or a beautiful luxury car or diamonds or pearls or fur coats. And I'm just thinking of the 80s aesthetic, like big steaks, and lobster and champagne and stuff like that. It may not come off that way all the time, but life is life. Life it isn't always going to go your way, and everyone isn't going to make it to the top, and everybody may not experience the true essence of a diamond life. And when it comes to luxury, um your elegance can protect you but also make you feel like you're in a prison. I'll elaborate on that. You could be at the top but still be lonely, because as they say, it's lonely at the top. That's true, because while you're up here, some people are still here. And people don't want to be around you when you up here like that. They don't want to deal with you because you remind them of their failures. But then some people may think you up here, but really you down here with them. But on the outside you look like you way up here, but you really here. Even it's like a even back, like even line. Like it's very, like, how would I say, it can be very deceptive. Some people got it and they're still lonely, and they could be finding ways to get pleasure by paying prostitutes or escorts or whatever. Or they just ain't happy and they finding pleasure somewhere, and it may not be in the healthiest forms all the time either. But then you still got the people who yearn for the diamond life and they never can get it no matter how hard they work. And that's the even more crazy part about it. The biggest contrast, or the biggest downside, is that people go through all this stuff to make it to the top and may not ever truly make it to the top. Or they live a facade like they're living a diamond life and they really aren't. A lot of people are doing that now. Then on top of that, you could be living this beautiful life, have everything, even be in a relationship and still be lonely. You feel like you're in a prison because you don't really have a genuine connection with this person like you thought. Yeah, everything looks great when you go out, and that, they may have a limousine or something waiting on you, driver waiting on you with something, take you to beautiful, amazing places to go shopping, and you may be going to Rodeo Drive or whatever, 5-star restaurants, getting all these beautiful manicures and pedicures, hair done, all these extensions or lace fronts and stuff, and you still miserable. You could be doing this stuff for yourself and still be miserable, even if you have the money on your own as well. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this spiritual breakdown of Sade's diamond life. It was a pleasure doing this video. Y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all day. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning here, y'all. It's almost been an hour. Whew, I've been recording almost an hour, but I'm about to get off here and I'm about to relax and go to bed, y'all. All right, peace. Leave some comments in the comment section too. If let me know what y'all think. Okay.